I just bought the cheapest Dodge Viper on the planet. And yeah, it was cheap for a reason. A lot of reasons. But I'm willing to bet we can salvage enough off this pile of metal that still loosely resembles a Viper to make it worth our while. How much was I willing to bet? 8 grand. I know, it looks like it's worth about $8, but at salvage auction, sometimes the worst cars end up being the best deals. Will that be the case this time? Well, there's only one way to find out. Now, when we saw this car at the salvage auction, it was completely wrapped up. So I don't even know what half this stuff is. I feel like Viper Santa Claus. Yeah, if my archaeological skills are correct here, this is the driver's airbox, or I guess at least it was the driver's airbox. Unfortunately, as cool as it is to have a sack of Viper parts, everything in this bag is just trashed. Except maybe the seat cushion. I almost feel bad to call this dumpster diving, but it really is what it feels like.
Yeah, it's a lot of trash. What about the harness? This probably is good.
Yeah, maybe. If this was some common mass-produced car, I'd probably just throw this whole assembly in the trash, but I think I'll pick through this one a little bit later and see if there's any value in it. So this next one, this is a little confusing. I am 99% sure that this is the lower diffuser from a 5th gen Camaro ZL1. Now we just have to see if I'm right. Nailed that one. Now what it's doing in the Viper, I don't know. Maybe they crashed into a Camaro. Maybe it was on a racetrack. I am really hoping we find something good in the car. I don't know. Maybe you have the magic touch. Well, it's not going to be that. Hey, we're moving up, though. At least that one's a motor. It's worth like 5 cents in scrap, which is better than all the plastic we pulled out so far. How's that song go? It's you don't make sense, you won't make dollars.
I don't think that's how it goes.
It's something. It's basically that.
It's heavy.
Is this... All right, so there's one cool thing we got out of here, and it's a really soggy Viper owner's manual. We'll check that out in a little bit. Is there anything else in here? Texas Mile, that's actually kind of cool. Not only did we find the event pass, we found the time slip, and I haven't done a lot of mile racing, but 159.2 miles an hour for a naturally aspirated Viper, at least, I mean, doesn't seem too bad. There is one kind of unique piece here, and unless you've been into Vipers at some point, it might be something you guys aren't aware of. On these early generation Dodge Vipers, they did not use a lot of glass. The windshield, that's glass. The back window that fit into that little slit, that's made out of Lexan, and I believe this is a piece of that. The door windows on this car, they're a completely different ball game. Most cars of this generation had manual roll-up windows, some had electric. This didn't have either. There was just an assembly you stuck in here by hand if you wanted your windows up, and if you didn't, you had to leave it out. There was no rolling it up, no rolling it down.
I think 96 is the last year for that, and in 97 they changed to the non-Velcro windows, and they changed a whole bunch of stuff with it, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments.
See, you came here to watch me lose 8 grand. Instead, you're getting Viper fun facts. I think we're probably all in agreement here. We haven't pulled anything of value out of here yet, but there is, as any race car should have, a fire extinguisher that is wrapped up in a phone charger. Not that we ever have fire hazards around here, but I'll hang on to this one just in case. So this probably started off about as well as we all imagined it would, but I'm at least pretty confident-ish that we can still recover some money out of the interior. And hey, if not, at least we bought ourselves a questionable engine and even more questionable BBSs. This probably won't come as a surprise, but it took us all 5 minutes to pull out every good condition, usable, sellable part from the interior, except some of the stuff from the passenger door, but we'll have to tend to that in a little bit because it's stuck shut. Not only did we manage to get a full set of seat cushions, which are in horrendous shape, but they'll definitely be reupholstered by somebody. They're worth at least a few $100, but we got the seat backs too. These old Viper seats use a multi-part shell and they just kind of slide together and unbolt. We got a couple gauges, some ratty red sun visors, a center console that survived with just a little bit of damage. It's a surprise we even managed to get that. The damage is wild. The center console itself, which is metal, that's blown apart. There's supposed to be a shifter coming up out of the shifter boot. It's, I don't know, gotta be pushed back to here. The steering wheel, that is, I don't know, that looks like a pizza that didn't get cooked all the way and got thrown on the floor. Even the pedals, the gas pedals somewhat in the right place, but the brake and the clutch, they overlap. So I know I said we got all the good sellable parts out of here, but we're not quite done. if we were buying cars just to make money, I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. This crashed up Viper wouldn't be anywhere near the top of the list. In fact, we'd probably just stick the part. Now, Camaro's like that horrendous example down there. But being a car guy, even when you do it professionally, it's still, at times at least, an emotional sport. Which means that yes, still get tempted by a cool car with a really nice set of wheels, even though it might not be a huge home run money maker. One part in particular that we're not gonna make any money from, these harnesses. Although they are still SFI certified, I wouldn't really be comfortable selling them, but I do know somebody who will use them.
So I got a 350Z. It's a 07 HR, all the goodies.
Get to the good part. We don't care about that.
It doesn't make power. That was my point, right? HR BQ35 sounds weird.
This is the Dodge video. They have no clue what you're talking about.
I'm gonna Hellcat swap a 350Z.
Free parts that we're gonna use on our own projects, not even the best part of this whole deal. That's the wall art. Stuff like this is just really cool to me personally, and I truthfully don't know where I'd get this stuff from if I wasn't doing stupid stuff like this. We got a steering wheel too. This is one of the last Dodge Vipers that came without an airbag, to me at least. This is another cool piece of automotive history that I'm gonna hang up on the wall of shame next to the Demon Hood. As much fun as getting a few new pieces of wall art is, it's certainly not gonna pay the rent. I'm hopeful that we can strip the body of the car down and recover at least a little more money before we get working on the engine. Fine. The next piece we got to hit on the exterior is this rear passenger quarter panel that somewhat survived except a little crack, but we can't do that until we get this door unstuck, which the kicking method didn't really work out too well.
Nah.
There we go. When all else fails in life, Soul's always got you covered. Whew. Well, I'm definitely not gonna say it was fun, being that we had to drill out like 400 rivets, and it'd been nice if they could have used bolts, but hey, we did it. And that, it didn't come off easy, I'm sure you can tell, is the last piece of the exterior puzzle.
So why is this muffler going to the back and not to the side?
This is out the side.
It's not.
It's out the side.
Yeah,
clearly out the side of the car.
But it goes all the way to the back.
Not anymore. Freshly broken exhaust aside, I'm actually quite pleased with what we're able to pull out of the exterior of the car. Even though they're damaged, we managed to get a couple rocker panels. These are like $1,000 each when they're good. These ones will probably pull something like $400 or $500. The rear bumper's probably the best condition piece we got. It has some paint flaws, some of the fins on the bottom are damaged, but it's not really broken, at least not as broken as everything else on this car was. We got the little door side panel, a trunk that somebody drilled out the lock, which did come in handy for us. We were able to stick a screwdriver in and open it, a gas door, a few taillights. And last but not least, we have the bin of miscellaneous junk. All in all, interior and exterior combined, we've recouped, I don't know, about $3 grand. I know it doesn't sound like that much, but now, instead of taking an $8,000 risk on this drivetrain, which, let's be honest, it's gonna need some type of work, we're taking a $5,000 gamble. This feels familiar, eerily familiar to a certain yellow Corvette. That's not great at all.
You didn't learn from that, right?
This time's different. I know it doesn't look different right now, but it is different, I promise. Before I get into explaining myself, we might as well just go ahead and show it. We knew this thing got rocked, but it got rocked. The back of the block's cracked. It doesn't look like it got up into anywhere super serious, but it's never good to see that. The starter ear, the block on this side as well, cracked. And then possibly the worst part, because I'm not sure that this is going to be a super easy fix, the oil pan in the front of the block there. We'll have to see a little better once we get it out. If that's just the front timing cover and the oil pan, it's not that big of a deal. But if the block itself's cracked there in the front, that's a big deal. On the transmission, I don't see any holes, at least not yet, but I'm willing to bet that based on the gear oil we see on the bottom of it, we're going to find something once we get up top. And then there's the drive shaft that's not really shafting too well anymore. It kicked out of the U-joints completely. It just ripped the retainers out. The differential itself, the upper mount broke, but I do think this might be okay, which, yeah, it's not much, but it's something. I don't think there's any possible way to spin this as a good thing, but unlike last time, we kinda knew what we were getting into on this one. On the yellow Corvette, based on the location of the fire, the way it was hit, I had at least decent confidence that the engine was going to be okay. Sure, we may have needed to do some work to it, but I really didn't expect it to be blown in half. This time though, even on the auction pictures, you could see that the engine was pushed back a good bit. You could see this hole in the valve cover, which you know water was going to be getting into. On this one, we knew best case scenario, we're gonna have to go through the engine before we put it in something, much less sold it if we went that route. Was I hoping the block wouldn't be cracked? Of course, but sub $10,000 wipers are so scarce that if you want to buy one, this is just what it's gonna look like. It's probably best to look at it as a collection of parts. But in this case, a cheap-ish at least, pile of parts is exactly what we needed. At the moment, we have two Viper adjacent projects here at the shop in the Viper Power 240 and the formerly Viper powered truck. Spare parts for those guys, never a bad thing. And then there's the actual Viper. But we'll talk more about that one in another video. At the present moment, we have something a little more important to talk about, specifically the sponsor of today's video, who I've worked with for over a decade now. When it comes to buying cars from Copart, sometimes we're after a new ground up rebuild project, sometimes I just want to throw myself together a new daily driver, and then sometimes, like this, we're after a giant pile of parts. Whatever the case might be, Copart always seems to have it. When you're ready to get into the salvage game and start buying cars from Copart, the first thing you need to do is get yourself a membership. They have a basic membership if you're only buying occasionally for $99, or if you, like me, are buying a ton of cars from Copart, you can get the premium membership for $249. Once you picked out a membership, then just upload your legally required documents, which you can do right from your mobile device, and then, once approved, that's when the real fun starts. It's time to start searching for cars at auction, throw out a few bids, and hopefully win yourself a new project. Copart offers a ton of ways to bid on and hopefully win your new car at auction. You can pre-bid hours or sometimes even days before the car runs, or you can do what I like to do and participate in a live auction. And then of course, there's the option for the particularly impatient type. We all know someone like that. That's where the buy it now option comes in. You can buy a car with one click without having to participate in the live auction, which just so happens to be what I did with this Corvette Z06. No matter what route you go, after you win, all you have to do is pay and pick it up. Copart offers a ton of convenient ways to pay. MoneyGram, wire transfer, credit and debit cards, even ePay. They even work with third-party tow providers to provide transportation for your vehicle that can be booked directly on Copart.com. And guys, don't forget, when you sign up for a Copart membership, use code ScrapLife20 to save yourself 20% and put that money towards your new project car. Might not be pretty, but it's fun. So I did technically say I was cool with this being a pile of parts. A pile of parts is gonna be. That's a tongue twister, right? Yeah, it was a good one. Anyway, it took, I don't know, 2 hours to cut this front end away. That should tell you right there how destroyed this thing was. And if there's any room left for doubt, well, here we go. The crank pulley bent in half and broken off the crankshaft. Same deal with the water pump pulley. I don't even know what that is. A tensioner, that's not really important here anymore. All this stuff on the front of the block is, wow. No words. Look at the oil pan. I do believe, if I'm gonna try to put a positive spin on this, that almost all this is front timing cover and water pump related. I don't know how much of the actual block is broken. We'll see that once we, I guess, get a little further into it later. I really do not consider myself professional at much, and I'm sure all you guys can back me up on that. But one thing, over the years, I've gotten pretty good at draining oil when it's not oil colored. You know, whether it might be clear, a light tan, who knows? Yeah, just nothing out of the norm here for us, unfortunately.
Is that apple juice?
At least on this one we expected it. Yeah, this stuff really, unfortunately, does not faze me anymore. And it should. I don't know what's more out of line, the fact that this is basically more or less pretty much normal now, or the fact that using a ratchet strap to hold a really twisted chassis to a lift arm is completely normal. You might get used to having water in your oil, but one thing that just doesn't stop impressing me is wreck damage like this. To see a transmission just shifted back that far, it's crazy. Yeah, there's transmission fluid leaking here. We got the plate off and I still can't see the crack.
What about from the top?
It's gotta be, right? It has to be. It's clearly cracked somewhere in the drive shaft. This should just... I stand back. Yeah, good idea. He was already on it. He was already backing up. also not really the whole point here, but if you haven't seen a Dodge Viper drive shaft, it is small. It's a really short shaft. I'm not going to go quite as far to say that these control arm pickup points are the main reason I bought this car, but they're definitely a reason. On the yellow Viper you guys briefly at least saw earlier, these are trashed. I'm hopeful at least that we can fix the ones on the car, but in the case we can't, you can't buy those things from Dodge. This is pretty much the only way you're getting them. While I've been hacking away at those things, I don't know, is hacking the right term?
Yeah, sure.
It's everything on this car is hacking in some manner, right? We saw the damage on the front earlier. Now we have just a little matching damage on the rear. I guess we're kind of lucky in a sense that we don't actually need this differential. We are gonna resell it. The diff itself, the fluid was clean, the housing's not broken, so we at least recoup a little bit of money there. And on the topic of money, this is one area where we're gonna recoup a ton of it. Early Viper fuel pump assemblies. I don't know why they're so expensive, but the last one that sold on eBay was $1,000. It looks like ours is perfectly fine. It's one of the few things on this car that is. Never mind.
No.
This thing got hit so hard that the fuel pump assembly inside the fuel tank that's in the middle of the frame got cracked. Yeah, I really hyped that one up too. Now, I don't think this is completely worthless. The housing's cracked, but it still functions as it should. We could probably still get a little bit of money for it, but we're obviously gonna have to disclose that. So, I don't know, maybe we get a couple $100 back instead of the 1,000 I was hoping for. Either way, that's officially the last part we have to pull off the car outside the drivetrain. I think off the top of my head, just a rough estimate here between the brakes, the little bit of suspension we're able to get, the interior and the exterior, we have about $6,000 in value. At this point, we're only $2,000 into this drivetrain, so unless it's completely unusable, which, let's be real, is possible, I still think we're in a pretty good spot. So, real quick, before we pull this, if you want to give the guys here a rundown of what's connecting this engine?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Gravity.
I think it may in some way be sitting on that header there. Engine mounts, they're completely sheared off. The trans mount, you already saw that. The other side of this is we tried to jack on it a little bit. I realize how that sounds. It didn't move, so I have no clue how this is gonna go. I genuinely think it's just wedged, stuck. I don't know. Let's pull it and see what happens. So the whole chassis goes with it. The engine didn't move independently from the chassis an inch. It seems like it's moving the cowl and the chassis more than it is the engine. Under the header, you can make it wiggle a little bit. Fernando, try lifting it up. It didn't do anything, I don't think. This would never happen with an LS. Never.
We need a Honda power.
Says the guy doing a Hellcat swap. There we go, yeah. Oh, there we go.
All right.
We got somewhere, it's out. Almost a foot at this point. Now we just have to cut everything we couldn't get to prior.
Hey.
Oh yeah. This should be it. Thank God. Wow. Look at the headers. That's where the engine mount used to go. This side, it doesn't exist anymore. All right, let's see what we're working with.
Let's take a moment to appreciate how perfectly balanced this thing.
Yeah, you really did nail that. And this, finally, it really looks like a junkyard here. This is real junkyard level stuff. Pulling engines with seatbelts. Now we just need to sell the same motors on eBay with the seatbelt still attached. It'll be a true junkyard. The thermostat housing on the back of this thing's destroyed. This used to be connected to it. Oh my God, look at the transmission. Well, we knew there was gonna be a crack. It's a crack. It is a crack. But I think that's all in the bell housing. The shifter housing, yeah, there's that. Right through the Viper logo. All right, that sucks. But either way, point being, This could be worse, and I'm not just stretching. The bell housing, the tail shaft housing, all that's replaceable. The core of the transmission, which is the most important part, doesn't look broken to me. Back me up on this, Tim?
Yeah, it looks pretty good, to be honest. Of all the things.
Yeah, I don't know where that fluid was coming from. I guess back here.
Yeah, probably.
The question is, would you use that on your car, Tim?
Debatable.
I would use this center section on my car, no problem. And I'll probably have to hold on to it because I don't think anybody's going to buy this thing. I don't feel comfortable selling it, but I will hold on to it to use it on whatever we eventually put this motor in. Because at this point, I'm fairly confident we're going to have to save this motor. I'm not selling it. It's not worth enough. Let's put it in something cool.
Transmission is covered by a warranty exchange program. Call before any repair. Let's see if we can get this warranted.
think they're going to cover this. Now the question is there damage on this block that's going to make it unusable? That's truthfully all that matters here. We know about that crack. Again, I don't think it goes up into any oil passage. This should be cosmetic. We do have to weld it, obviously. This is what I'm really worried about. That corner of the block's cracked off. Does that lead to an oil passage? Wow. That's actually quite impressive. That's pretty cool.
That's
Had a little mishap there. Either way, the damage on this thing just wild. Actually, that doesn't feel so hot either, if I'm being honest. Yeah, the more I play around with this shaft, the more I'm thinking that whatever's in here probably isn't in the best condition. This, like the engine, might just end up being a full teardown, which is obviously not ideal, but at the end of the day, we only have $2,000 wrapped up in everything on this pallet. $2,000 for all this stuff, which after a lot, and I do mean a lot of work, we will put into something cool. It might be 3 years from now. I can't really complain. And then there's the wheels, of course. My original thought with the wheels, I was going to turn them into a chandelier. In fact, I ordered all the parts I would need to do so, but then Fernando came up with what I think might be a better idea. We send them out, have new lips and barrels done, and stick them on the yellow Viper. Is that going to be in any way cost effective given the condition? I don't know, but I do believe all the faces survived. Even this one that got some scuffs, it got cracked right around the face, but it does appear to be just lip damage. I reached out to a few companies that do this sort of thing. If any of you guys have done something similar in the past, go down in the comments, reach out to me via email, get in touch with me somehow, let me know how the experience was and who you used to do it. Now, Tim, since the very moment this thing hit the lift, there's been one thing I've really wanted to do.
What's that?
You can probably guess. Well, the salvage industry, it might not always be the prettiest business to be in, but even in times like this, as long as you're careful about what you pay for cars on the front end, it usually turns out okay-ish. Ooh, I shouldn't grab that glass like that.
No. You cut yourself?
No, I don't think so.
I was trying to be quiet in the back.
And then there's the BBS wheels, none of which truly survived, but I do have a really